Dear friends, greetings for the day. Today we are going to look after the ESG, that is environment, social and governance, and under BRSR report, that is business responsibility sustainability report, and one of the most important topic covered under BRSR report under principle 6, that is scope 3 emissions intensity and its reduction. So this is the scope 3 is the most important and most neglected area, and which is very tedious to capture, which today we are going to understand with respect to this video. Now once again we will repeat under principle 6. Under principle 6 of BRSR report, what does it say? Respect and make efforts to protect and restore the environment, such that implements drives for reduction in energy intensity with respect to previous financial year, implement drives for reduction in water intensity with respect to previous financial year, implement drives for reduction in scope 1 and scope 2 and scope 3 greenhouse gases emission intensity with respect to previous financial year, and initiate fuel substitution project such as coal to briquettes and furnace oil to pipe natural gas. So today's topic again we are going to see is that implement drives for reduction in scope 3 greenhouse gas emission intensity with respect to previous financial year. Now under this principle 6 leadership indicators, and under the scope 3, what is the data to be provided in BRSR report? So they say that please provide, it is said that please provide the details of total scope 3 emissions and its intensity in the following format. This is a table. So they say that total scope 3 emissions has to be reported in metric tons of CO2 equivalent for both the years, current financial year and previous financial year. Then you have to calculate total scope 3 emission intensity, that is emissions per rupee of turnover. How do you calculate? You have to just divide the total summation of this metric tons of CO2 equivalent divided by turnover of that company for that particular current year, and for that particular financial year, previous financial, you will get the emission intensity. And there is optional also, if at all any other metrics the industry wants to utilize, they can utilize this row. Now under this leadership indicators, it is said that if the entity has undertaken any specific initiative or used innovative technology or solution to improve resource efficiency or reduce impact due to emissions or effluent discharge, then please provide details of the same as below as outcome of the such initiative. So in this table, you have to give the initiative with respect to various projects initiated for reduction of emission intensity of scope 3 emissions. So here you have to write the initiative undertaken, the details is required with a brief summary and quantification in terms of the final outcome. Now this is a graphical representation or pictorial representation. It covers both the scope 1, scope 2 and scope 3 emissions. Now let us see, the scope 3 includes all the 3 indirect emissions that occur in the company's value chain. Value chain means what? See, the industry while running the organization has to procure some raw materials. That is called the upstream. Means procurement of the raw materials is usually categorized as the upstream. And then what is downstream? The finished product which are sold to the market through different channels, through transportation and through dealers or sub dealers or franchise. So that is called the downstream. So here you can see the scope 1 direct emissions are shown, then scope 2 indirect emission are shown, but we are going to concentrate on scope 3 indirect emissions. The scope 3 indirect emission is upstream activities, and here it is downstream activities. So in upstream activities, what it is said is purchased goods and services, then capital goods, then fuels and energy restore related activities. So these all will come in scope 2. We will see point by point, and in scope 3 also whatever the categories are that we will see in the next slide. So this in a tabular form I have included all the upstream and downstream scope 3 emissions. Now we will see point by point wise what are these. First point is it comes in upstream, that is purchased goods and services. What is the category? The extraction, production and transportation of goods and services purchased or acquired by the reporting company comes in this category of purchased goods and services. Now all upstream cradle to gate, that is from inception to final stage, emissions of the purchased goods and services to be captured in scope 3 emission under this category purchased goods and services. Then capital goods. Here this is replaced by purchase good with capital goods, such as extraction, production and transportation of capital goods purchased or acquired by the reporting company. So here also all upstream cater to get emission of purchased capital goods are to be captured. Then comes the third category, that is fuel and energy related activities. This is very important. Any such activity or consumption not included in scope 1 and 2 can be captured under these fuel and energy related activities. What are that? In category extraction, production and transportation of fuels and energy purchased or acquired by reporting company and not included in scope 1 and 2. A. Upstream emissions of purchased fuels, that is extraction, production, transportation of fuels consumed by reporting company. An equivalent minimum boundary is for all upstream emission of purchased fuel. All upstream, that is cradle to gate emission of purchased fuels. Now B, under category description, upstream emission of purchased electricity, that is extraction, production and transportation of fuels consumed in generation of electricity, that is steam, heating and cooling, or consumed by reporting company has to be reported. What is B? For all upstream emissions of the purchased electricity, all upstream cradle to gate emission of purchased fuel including power consumption by the generator has to be captured under this category. Then in continuation of this third, this is very important. See, that is transmission and distribution loss, that is called T&D. So the generation of electricity, steam, heating and cooling that is consumed, so that is lost in T&D system, that has to be captured here in scope 3 emissions. So see here, minimum boundary is for all T&D losses, all upstream cradle to gate emission of energy consumed in T&D has to be captured. Then D, generation of purchased electricity that is sold to end users. Generation of electricity, steam, heating and cooling that is purchased by reporting company and sold to end users reported by utility company. This has to be captured under this category. Here D it says for generation of purchased electricity that is sold to end users, that is emission from generation of purchased electricity has to be captured under this category. Then comes the category 4, upstream transportation and distribution. So whatever the transportation and distribution of the products purchased by the reporting company between companies tier 1 supplier and its operation. So all has to be captured. All the logistic transportation during the upstream transportation and distribution has to be captured. So scope 1 and 2 emission of the transportation and distribution providers that occur during the use of vehicles and facilities or infrastructure has to be captured in this category. Then waste generated in operations, such that disposal and treatment of waste generated in the companies operating in facilities not owned by the company, means it is outsourced activity, that has to be captured under this category. Then category C, business travel. So the transportation of employee for business related activities in vehicles not owned by the company. For example, the employees commute from their sites to corporate offices, through flights, to trains, to buses. So that commutation has to be captured in business travel. So this particularly it is business travel, not the employee commutations for daily working. So here all scope 1 and scope emission of transportation carriers that occur during the use of vehicle has to be captured. Then employee commuting. This is the transportation of employees between their homes and their work sites in vehicles not owned or operated by the company. So here in scope 1 and 2, we have included only the emission that is company owned vehicles, but outsourced vehicle has to be captured under this employee commuting which has been outsourced. Then upstream leased assets. Operation of assets leased by the company and not included in scope 1 and 2. So the industries and the main entity which has outsourced some of the activities for on basis of lease, their assets has been leased. So whatever emission is happening on that leased assets has to be captured under this category 8. Then downstream transportation. Up to now we are looking all upstream transportation or upstream emissions. Now we will see downstream transportation and emission. So there downstream transportation and distribution, the transportation and distribution of product, that is finished product, sold by the company between the company's operation and end consumers. Ultimately the product is manufactured for end consumers. So whatever the energy, fuel or consumed, that has to be captured in logistics for these downstream activities. Then processing of sold products means the processing of intermediate products sold by downstream companies, that is the manufacturer, has to be captured under this category 10. Then come use of sold products. End use of goods and services sold by the company has to be captured under this use of sold products. Then end of life treatment of sold products. So the waste disposal and treatment of the products sold by the company at the end of their shelf life. This is done through the extended producer responsibility. Now downstream leased assets. Operation of assets owned by the company and leased to other entities not included in scope 1 and 2 has to be reported by the lessor and not the lessee. Then franchises. The operation of franchise not included in scope 1 and 2 by the franchisor has to be captured under category 4 franchise. Then investment. The operation of investment including equity and debt investment and project finance not included in scope and 1-2 has to be captured under this investment under the scope 3 emissions. So this was all about the scope 3 emissions in the principle 6 category. So thank you once again very much for watching my videos, and keep on watching my videos and subscribe my channel, and thank you very much.